Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Twameva Mata Chapita Twameva Twameva Bandhushcha Sakha Twameva Twameva Vedya Dravinam Twameva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Twameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Jai Guru Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are in our 10th chapter, and what verse are we on?
You said last week we had only partially covered verse 8, and
Yes.
you wanted to return to it.
So would you repeat verse 8, please, Deepa?
Yes.
It's too bright.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all. From me everything evolves. Understanding thus, the wise, endowed with loving consciousness, worship me.
Yes. So the idea here is we're looking at using the paradigm we get in Yoga Vasishta, 3 questions. Who am I? What is this world? And how has it come about? Now, that first one is rather easy to get a sense of it. And some people think that's all there is to it. My mind thins out a little bit, I get quiet, and in the space between my thoughts, I introvert my attention, and I see, oh, the person isn't there anymore. What's there is witnessing consciousness. I am that. Okay, all done. No. Because frequently we come out of meditation and people upset us and situations bother us and I'm not getting what I want and the politics aren't the way it's going and I'm worried about job and I'm worried about money. Why is this still afflicting me? I know I'm witnessing consciousness. I know all these reactions aren't real, but they sure do hurt. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Yes, no?
Yes.
The reason is I need to see the self in and through all the objects. And this is what Krishna's implying here when he is the origin, the source of everything. He's the Did we do efficient, instrumental, and material cause last week? Was it this class?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, review. In material cause, what is this phenomenal world made up of? It is consciousness appearing as name and form, just as the pot, the bowl, the cup are all clay, appearing as these various forms. Just like the earring, the nose ring, the bracelet, the necklace are all gold, appearing as these various ornaments. So, sarvam idam, all this is nothing but consciousness appearing as name and form. God is and appears as name and form. Why is this important to meditate on? Because in the end, consciousness never leaves its swabhava, its self nature, which is Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss absolute. On God's world, in my mind, I superimpose good and bad, right and wrong, just and unjust, virtuous and vicious. It's just the projection of my mind, sankalpa, imagination. So we need to stop taking our own mind or anybody else's seriously. It's funny. I can remember this woman was at a camp and I was looking at Swamiji and I saw who he really is. He's the devil. Where was the devil? In her mind. Of course, I see him as a great Mahatma. Where's that? In my mind. What's there? Absolutely neutral. But the names and forms, all being Krishna. So we talked about the instrumental cause, the material cause, the instrumental cause. Where does God create the universe? In himself. And who does it? God himself. So it is the nature of consciousness to have name and form arise in it. Just like it's the nature of a mirror to reflect objects in front of it. So when we have questions, well, why did God do it? Was he lonely? He wanted us to keep him company. It just is. Why does a mirror reflect? We can say how it does, but why we're attributing anthropomorphic motivation to an inanimate object? It is the nature of consciousness. It is the Maya Shakti, which is the nature of the infinite. Now, Atik had brought up the question, when did this all begin? Before class? Yoga does not look at time as linear. It looks at it as circular. The Kala Chakra, the wheel of time. Which has no beginning, which has no end. Another way to look at the beginningless nature of ignorance. A dream is beginningless. What do you mean? I went to bed at 11 o'clock last night and I woke up at 6 and I had a dream somewhere in that time. That's from the outside. But when you're dreaming, it's the nature of the dream to project a world. And we never stop to consider its origin. They don't roll the credits at the beginning of a dream. This is the dream of Shilpa being a professional ballet dancer. No, it doesn't happen. You're in a situation in the dream, and it has no beginning to the dreamer. It's just always been that way. Is this making sense? Yes, no?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So how does it connect back to what you were saying? That if we know who we are, but we still feel afflicted by these.
What we have to, the meditation is to start to see the fundamental unreality of the world of name and form. It's just in consciousness. That's the point. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Now, a child may think there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Mummy, mummy, let's get in the car and go find the end of the rainbow. No. A child may think, oh, let's leave out cookies and milk for Santa Claus. But there's no Santa Claus. Someone who's never seen train tracks may say, oh, you better not get on the BART train. They meet in the distance. You're crashing. No. So what the yogi practices is not to take the name and form seriously, not to take her mind seriously, and especially when the world pokes at a sense of identity. I got a text today with the person who doesn't seem to like me. And he gave me a list of the things that I have done. Why he doesn't want to have a relationship anymore. I responded, I'm sorry I have offended you. I didn't do this on purpose. Oh, I'm not offended. All I can do is, all right, Lord, if I have a character defect that's in the way of me helping your holy people and doing your work, you're going to have to remove it from me because I can't see what I did. And you let it go. What else can you do? Over and over and over again. You look at the financial situation. You do your best in the world, but it's you hear all these images. It's like an actor in a play. You know, will your automotive product ever find a home? I have no idea. All you can do is do your best and give God the rest. But I promise you, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. No point getting upset. Or back to what we were talking about. You know, you seem to be more at peace with your new job. Am I wrong?
Mhm.
Has the job changed?
No,
What changed?
my mind.
Yes. So all that worry, oh, did I make a mistake? I made the wrong choice. I should have gone blah, 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 blah. Were you able to set that aside to some degree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good yoga. That's good yoga. Now, eventually, the yogi, as you thin the mind, more and more you begin to see the fundamental unreality of the world of name and form. Don't take it so seriously. Swami Tejomayananda had a maxim that I really love. The foolish person doesn't take life seriously. The intelligent person takes life seriously. But the wise person seriously doesn't take life seriously. As ego attacks come at us or ego praise comes at us, Shankara's suggestion, you want to have a mind like a wicker basket with water pouring in it. Just goes through. Like a colander. Just let it all go through. Don't let it land. Don't let it land. Now, Swamiji used to poke at us. And if we had an identification or an attachment, he'd just lean on it until we let it go. Just try. I think life does a pretty good job of that without my help. And we all move through the world and we do things that upset people, not to upset them. I'm not saying that this is going to insulate us from having other people react to us. If we're wrong, promptly admit it, make an amend, apologize. But a lot of the time, we're just doing life and other people react to it. It's their stuff. Their stuff. I don't know if that's helpful tonight.
Yes.
It is a practice. It is a practice. We have to turn down the mind's defensiveness, its reactivity to the world. What we learned in the second chapter, the samadrishta, this equality of vision. Or to use the frame of St. Francis, everything that comes along is a gift. What do I have to learn by this experience? I like that one.
Jen, are there practices for yogis to think like more practically about time as non-linear? Do you, what you were kind of sharing about how we should be thinking about time in a more practical sense?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Just kind of what you were saying about like slowly getting more closer to understand, like to kind of dropping our sense of the reality of like the world as name and form.
The world is name and form, but it's not what we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga never says you're not experiencing name and form.
Mm.
But what I think it is not what it is. It's like there are certain movies that are PG-13. What does that mean? It means kids who are younger than 13 aren't allowed to see them. Why? Especially if it's like a horror movie. Because they think it's real. They forget that it's a movie.
Mhm.
So what the yogi needs to constantly remember, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, it's all God. It's like a movie. I am never really touched. And no, neither is anyone else. It's all going to be okay. Now, what do we do with our vyavaharika, our worldly transactions? Do your best and let God have the rest. Doesn't mean we're not going to screw up. Of course we are. The equipment's finite. But nobody has the power to make me feel anything. I have to buy into it. No circumstance is important enough for me to lose my peace of mind. These are things that I have found useful.
Hmm.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
You can't run away from the circumstances. But beating ourselves up, getting emotional, lashing out, it's not a solution to much of anything. It's usually attempts to protect ego. And I can only tell you out of my own direct experience. I screw up. Oops. Of course, the equipment is finite. And if someone else has control issues or ideas of the way it should be, or their own ego identification, is my way of being in the world potentially going to upset someone else? Probably. That's no reason to get upset. I'm in the wrong, fix it. Sometimes it's not fixable. But there's never a need to get upset about it, get identified about it, get attached to an outcome. And this idea that the phenomenal world comes about in the same manner as a dream. When I have a dream, the material cause of all the objects in the dream, including the dream body, my mind. Where did I do it? In my mind. Who did it? I did. And I, the waker, am never touched by the dream. Likewise, all this is just consciousness. And then I have my own silliness, my opinions about it all. Don't take them seriously. The substratum of life is never touched. Now here, the part that we didn't get to last week. to love. When we are loving, it's because intuitively we're getting an experience of the infinite in something. Did I mention about the symphony concert I went to last week? Did I mention it?
I was here last week.
The one with Wendy? That
Pardon
one?
me?
The one you went to with Wendy and had the
Yes.
food? Yes, that one, yes.
Yes, so there was an Armenian violinist who did the Tchaikovsky violin concerto. It was fabulous. And so much applause that he came out to do an encore. And he did a prayer from the 10th century. Now, I don't know enough about Armenian history. I have no idea if Armenia was Christian at that time. It might have been Muslim even at that time. But it was obviously some prayer that was chanted. He just played the tune on the violin. So simple. And when he was finished, well, I was in tears. I was not the only one. So beautiful. There was just sigh. Then thunderous applause. That moment of silence when we're lost in beauty, when we are lost in love. Is a doorway to the infinite. Swami Tapovana, my grandfather guru, used to love to walk through the Himalayas. And in his spiritual autobiography, Wandering in the Himalayas, he talks about, just walking along a jungle path and seeing a flower, just being lost in the rapturous beauty of a flower, or the majesty of the trees, or the mad painter painting the sky with clouds. If you've been in nature, you know what he's talking about. Now, that's very different than when you're walking around the lake and you spend 3/4 of your time around the lake having a conversation with someone who's not walking with you. Then you're caught up in your head. Or get your Metallica, heavy metal music. Nowhere near the beauty of nature. It's right there. So the invitation here is to endeavor to love everything. So our spirituality is not just from the neck up. So it involves the heart. Involves the heart. Beautiful, beautiful verse. All right, next one, please.
Matchita madagat prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. With their minds wholly resting in me, with their senses absorbed in me, enlightening one another and ever speaking of me, they are satisfied and delighted.
Oh, this is a wonderful verse. So let's parse it. Let's take each piece. The first idea,
With their minds wholly resting in me.
so two ways to interpret this. The first, of course, is in meditation, directing the mind's eye towards the self. Or, as has been implied in the last couple of verses, can you see God in everything? Looking every person in the eyes and knowing that the being looking out of those eyes is Krishna. Endeavoring to see the Lord everywhere. Next idea.
With their senses absorbed in me.
Yes. Two ways to look at it. The first is through uparati, sense withdrawal, or pratyahara, same thing. Back in the 6th chapter, he talked like a tortoise withdraws all its limbs. So in meditation, we concentrate first on our object of attention, the breath or the mantra or your form of the Lord, but then focus the attention on the self, withdrawing the senses. The other interpretation of it is be single pointed with your mind on a sensory experience. So just touch your fingertips together, just gently, and absorb yourself just in the intensity of that sensation. Or now take a breath and let nothing exist but the breath. Every activity, every sensory experience, if we put our minds where our hands are working, single point the mind into that activity, it reveals the bliss of the self, this incredible intensity of the world. Next idea.
Enlightening one another.
So I think it's Taittiriya Upanishad at the end, the Rishi says, Swadhyaya pravachane Swadhyaya pravachane it repeats. Swadhyaya, your own self-study, and then pravachana, which is to teach one another. Why is this important? You may be studying the Vedanta from a passive viewpoint. You hear the teaching from the teacher, you read the commentary when you study the scripture. But if you try to share this with someone else, the clarity or lack of clarity exposes itself. So to share this truth, this is why Swamiji started the study groups almost from the very beginning of his work. Well, aren't you just going to pass your ignorance back and forth? Probably. But that very struggle helps us solidify the knowledge, then the deeper meaning of this. One of my favorite scriptures, many of you know, is Tripura Rahasyam, the mystery beyond the Trinity. And the whole first, at least third of the book, answers the question, what is the root cause of liberation? And the scripture's answer is sadhu sangha, the company of the wise. So Hemaleka, the daughter of a sage, eventually enlightens her husband, Hemachuda. Hemachuda enlightens his brother, Manichuda. And they enlighten the king, whose name I've forgotten now. And Hemaleka enlightens the other women in the court. And then the ministers get enlightened. And then finally the servants do. And even the harlots and laborers get enlightened. Even the birds, parrot, seek the self. The players do knowledge's ridiculing, or do plays ridiculing ignorance and extolling knowledge. It's metaphor, but the idea is there's a spiritual contagion. Shankara says it is the duty of the teacher to share the knowledge with those who come to her or him. Now, there's a caveat here. Don't claim an insight or a realization you don't have. By all means, share your experience. But be humble. You can always say, well, the scriptures say, yada, 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 yada. And this is the way in which this knowledge spreads through a culture. And then all of a sudden we find that character starts to change. Many people following Karl Marx thought for a long time that the problem was systems. We have oppressive systems. What we need to do is change a system. Capitalism is inherently oppressive. We need to move towards socialism or communism. And this may or may not be true, but it leaves out a major factor that Gita talks about, the importance of character. So there was a communist economic system in the Soviet Union under Stalin. And my personal opinion is his character wasn't particularly luminous. It was caught up in revenge, lust for power, domination. Contrast that with Tibet, which had a feudal system of economy. There were serfs tied to the land, to the monasteries. But there was a huge emphasis on character, on ethics, on nonviolence. My suspicion is a serf in Tibet was probably happier than someone terrified in the Soviet Union under a Stalinist purge. Now, systems are important. I'm in no way saying they're not important. Character is even more important. Any thoughts on this? How do we do this? Pravachana. Share this knowledge, share these values with one another. For years, when I would be teaching Gita, we'd get to the 16th chapter, the divine and devilish estate. And I didn't think it was a particularly important chapter. Most of the people I knew were good people. People who come to class, they were very good people. I didn't think it applied to them. But now we're in a socio-political environment where there is certainly a decline of values. You find it in education, you find it in business. And I'm not saying this has immediately happened. This has been going on for a while. Where the divine virtues or even Judeo-Christian morality out the window. Why not lie, cheat, and steal if you can get away with it? We have many ways lost a moral compass in this country. One of the things Gita says is that will bring a society to ruin. So the invitation here is be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Speak truth. Do good. Be good. Go review chapter 16 if you want. Look at the divine and devilish estates. This is not to beat somebody else over the head. It's for you and me. In our daily interactions, our vyavaharika, to act with some nobility and teach one another. We're at a time where it's important. Okay, next idea.
And ever speaking of me, they are satisfied and delighted.
Yes. So, are you out with your friends, involved with gossip, tearing down other people, character assassination? Or do you look for opportunities to bring comfort, to bring spiritual truths You don't have to be labeled a nut. But don't shy away. I remember what one of my favorite sayings of Saint Francis: wherever you go, preach the gospel, and if you must, use words. Always remembering who we are speaks much louder than anything we say. Next idea.
That's the end of the verse.
All right. Any thoughts on this? Very important idea. Next verse.
Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam purvakam dadami buddhi yogom tam yena mamupayanti te. To the ever steadfast, worshipping me with love, I give the buddhi yoga by which they come to me.
So if I'm steadfast, I tell people I've been a crappy yogi. I've made lots and lots of mistakes, but I've been steadfast. I've been a yogi coming up on 51 years. I'm a slow learner, but I've been steadfast. So don't worry if you slip. Don't worry if, oh, I didn't meditate at all this week. Tomorrow you can start your yoga afresh. Don't worry if in the middle of the day you get all triggered and plugged in. It's okay. You can start your day at 4 p.m. too. Just be steadfast. Keep on keeping on. In Shankara's qualifications of a fit student, before he gets into the four, he'll say that person who has a knowledge of the world outside and an understanding of the world inside, who can refute arguments against the scriptures, who can argue for the scriptures and refute arguments against them. So what does it mean? You need to have a clear understanding of what the world can deliver and what it can't. The world can at best deliver little squirts of joy, which are always finite and temporary. Don't expect something from the world that it can't give. Knowledge of the world inside. Oh, we need to have some understanding of our own psychology. This can be the value of psychotherapy. It's a lot cheaper to have a really disciplined meditative practice because that material will come up out of the unconscious. Just don't do something, sit there, and that stuff will unload. You begin to know what your particular kleshas are and argue for the scriptures and refute arguments against them. Where does that argument take place? At your local yoga studio? In my own mind. Why? Because the message I get from the world is the one with the most toys wins. It's about cash and prizes. One who has the biggest title, the biggest bank account, the biggest house, they win. That's where happiness is. And yoga says it's just different. Won't make you happy in the long run. It's just different. Find the Ch10, the wish fulfilling gem that is your own self. Did I get what? Go through the English one more time for me. I'm having a senior moment.
To the ever steadfast, worshipping me with love, I give the Buddhi Yoga by
Okay.
which they come to me.
So worshiping me with love. This is at the highest level, what we call Parama Prema, the supreme love for God. But it matures into Atma Ramana, the reveling in yourself. So with this steadfast, the promise is Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi is the intellect. I get a clear understanding of who I am and what is this world. That mind gets yoked to the self. That's the deep meaning of Hanuman. Embracing Lord Ram. Next one.
तेषामेवानुकम्पार्थ महमज्ञानजं तम नाशयाम्यात्मभावस्थो ज्ञानदीपेन भावस्तता. Out of mere compassion for them, I, dwelling within their hearts, destroy the darkness born of ignorance by the luminous lamp of knowledge.
Oh, there's so much packed into this one. So it is the nature of the inner guru, the Sadguru, to be compassionate. St. Paul says, nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. I don't care how sinful you've been, how evil your thoughts are, how obsessive you've been. God does not judge you. It is the dharma of a human being to move towards God. And that process is absolutely capable of overcoming everything and anything. We need to invoke it by our surrender, by our love, by our opening to it. The compassion of Krishna is a constant. Some people feel that others don't. We invoke it through our own surrender. And if I'm not feeling the compassion, the love of God, it's my little self that's in the way. It's my selfishness, my egocentricity, How am I doing? What do they think of me? Am I okay? My fear. My dishonesty with myself as well as everyone else. All the ways ego manifests itself. That's what insulates me from the compassion, the love of God. That healing presence. Which is why all the great religions teach Ishvara Pranidhana, trustful surrender to God. And that divine pull brings us home eventually. How does it manifest? By ultimate intolerance to my suffering. I just can't live this way anymore. And I start to let it go. So he's compassionate. What's the next part of the verse?
Dwelling within their hearts.
So this is really cool. In the end, Krishna's out there. Yes. Some people have had visitations from Krishna. Some people feel a presence of Lord Krishna. That's all well and good. But in the end, Krishna is my very self. It's my very experience of I. So if you think you're special because you know that you are Brahman, well, I've got news for you. Everybody else is Brahman too. All that differs is the understanding in a person's mind of the essence of who they are. That doesn't change. They're still Brahman. They're still Krishna. Next verse.
It's two verses together.
This is what, 12 and 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Arjunuvacha param brahma param dhama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashvatam divyam adidevamajam vibhum ahus ahutstva mrishaya sarve devarshirnaradastatha asito devalo vyasa swayam chaiva bravishime. Arjuna said, "You are the supreme Brahman, the supreme abode, the supreme purifier, eternal, divine Purusha, the God of all gods, unborn and omnipresent. All the rishis have thus declared you, as also the Deva Rishi Narada, as also Asita, Devala, and Vyasa, and now the same you yourself say to me."
So Arjuna, as the universal yogi, is beginning to see who Krishna is. Krishna as the universal guru. So I did an interview this week with a fellow who does a spiritual podcast. And one of the first things he was asking me about was my relationship with my guru, and he wanted to know if I was totally destroyed when my guru died. And I said, no, because he didn't go anywhere. And I talked a bit about the evolution of my understanding of who Swamiji was. In the beginning, he was this Indian fellow in the orange robes. I had a hard time understanding. There was all this Shakti, oh my God. And then as I became more familiar with his accent and attended more camps, gosh, he was so brilliant, the way he worked the knowledge. And then he would frequently make reference to Shankara and especially Shankara's commentary on Gita. So I got an English translation of the Shankara Bhashya of the Gita, and I started to read it, and I just laughed and laughed because Swamiji was straight Shankara. The way he worked with our minds was exactly the way Shankara did. And then I learned to tune up to him. That was the language he would use. So I could like just surrender into his mind. And he was so empty. There was so much presence. It's indescribable, but so real. And he'd go off to do a camp someplace else, and down I'd come. And then would say, use the guru wherever I am in the world, you tune into me. So all I learned to do then was, all I had to do was think of him, and my mind would tune up. Oh, yes. And then he told us we had to get established in that ourselves. And I realized that whole process was a trick. That thunder of silence, that infinite peace and bliss was my own swarup, was my own self-nature. He tricked us. And so anytime I revel in the self, I can't tell you how many times we've been in class and our minds drop, we all get tuned up. We're drunk on the presence. There's a piece of me that wants to say, oh, by the way, meet Swamiji. Why should I mourn? He didn't go anywhere. Early on, he would say, find out who the guru is. Ooh. So here Arjuna is beginning to tune up to Lord Krishna and get a sense that the self is who Krishna is, not that physical form. So with that in mind, let's go through those wonderful ideas. The first idea,
You are the Supreme Brahman.
so he sees the truth of who Krishna is. I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. So not only is Krishna Brahman, But in that recognition, Arjun gets a taste that the self in me is that too. Next idea.
The supreme abode.
Yes. So where is it I can go that's absolutely safe? My mind is extroverted into the world and I take it all as so real. And it's such a sense of insecurity, such a sense of spiritual poverty. But oh no, I can just let the world go. Come home to the self. That refuge, that shelter, that abode. Next idea.
The supreme purifier.
Yeah. So dwelling in the self. Very Shakti that moves through my mind, purifies it by grace. And it also means understanding that the individual self is by definition impure. But the real self is already pure. Next idea.
Eternal.
Yeah. Not only is Krishna the substratum of the whole creation, as the creation goes through its time cycles, but the substratum goes nowhere. It is nityam, eternal. But it also means the self in you is eternal. You were never born. You do not change. You do not die. We make a distinction between Puranam or Sanatanam, ancient, and Nityam, eternal, which is always now, always outside of time. Next idea.
Divine Purusha.
Yes. So this word Purusha, which literally means person, it's one of the oldest names for the infinite. In the Rig Veda, we have the great hymn, the Purusha Sutkam, the hymn to the divine person. But it doesn't mean I'm going to go to heaven and there's some dude up there with 4 arms and blue skin. It's a divine person. It means what is the essence of every person? What is it that makes you, you? It's not your body. Your body's changed. Not your mind. That certainly changes all the time. It's not your thoughts. You're you. Next idea.
The God of all gods.
Yeah. So all the gods we can name, be it Jesus or Muhammad, I wouldn't think of him as mainly a god, but the devas we have, the murtis that we have in our temples and things like that. Those are just outward representations of an aspect of the infinite. But who is the God behind the God? That is consciousness itself. Next idea.
Unborn.
Yeah. Well, wasn't I born and didn't I come into existence when I was born, or when the egg and the sperm got fertilized? And well, is your existence dependent on the body? Well, I don't remember anything before. I don't remember before being born. I'm sorry, you don't even remember being born. Most of us don't have much memory before the age of 3 or 4. Do you have memory before 3 or 4? What is today, the 2nd of November? What were you doing 10 years ago on the 2nd of November? Do you remember? No. Memory is no proof of existence. You didn't cease to exist. But all you have to do is look at a photo album of yourself as a 10-year-old. Where did that body go? It's dead. Not a cell is still with you. But you have gone nowhere. Someone asked Dr. Deepak Chopra if death is the opposite of life, or if life is the opposite of death. And he said, no, birth is the opposite of death. There is no opposite to life. Next idea.
Omnipresent.
Yes. So, just as in the dream state, your dreamer mind pervades every object, every being in your dream, so also consciousness pervades this entire creation. There is no place where God is absent. Now, this gives us a really good tool. So you've got a gnarly conversation that you have to have with someone, or there's some problem at work. Take this into that. Where is God in this situation? Can you find the hand of God in this situation? It's a wonderful practice. God is omnipresent. Next idea.
Jim, the next idea is a full verse that is about the rishis. All the rishis have thus declared you, as also the Deva Rishi Narada, as also Asita, Devala, and Vyasa, and now the same you yourself say to me.
Yes. So what we have here is just because the guru here in the form of Krishna are saying it, our ultimate authority as Hindus are our scriptures. So the rishis themselves, the great Mahatmas, have said the same truth. Even though you may not have yet experienced it, have faith that that's available for you. And it's useful when the world says you're born and then you die, so you might as well get yours out of life. Vanquish your enemies. Get back at people. Acquire more stuff. Have power. I think it was Henry Kissinger said, power is the greatest aphrodisiac. But the scriptures say you can have a different value. All right, we'll end here. I've gone over a bit. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.